On November 12th, which is yesterday, Tuesday, I talked at the public participation of the Union Township trustees on 3 topics: the Fernando Cruz development that has now collapsed, the DORA in paying RJ's $2,900 a year to sell beer, and the Michael Logue car theft. So each of these is kind of important topics, and there's some it's almost asinine, some of the things that get said after I talk. I asked them to respond. I appreciate that they responded after I talked, but I'm going to dissect a little bit what they said. Now, I'm going to play first a video, and the video is sped up by 25%. And I'm going to try not to interrupt the video and just let it play. So it'll just be what I said yesterday, because it's kind of those 3 topics, and then they respond on a few of the topics. Then I'm going to come back and dissect it all. I might lose my ability to not stop the video, but hopefully I'll let the video play with almost no interruption. So here we go. Here's the video of me talking last night at the Union Township trustees meeting, and then them responding to me. It's about 8 minutes in total.
Name and address for the record, please.
Do you have it memorized?
I do.
Say it. Go.
444 Woodward.
444 Woodward Court, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45255. Thank you, Mr. Dills.
5 minutes, please.
I'm here to kind of gripe as usual about 3 things. Mr. Logue?
Just listen.
Good. I'd appreciate you guys all paying attention when I'm talking.
We are.
So the first thing is the Fernando Cruz case, 124Z from August 20th, 2023. I am going to break it already. And so Michael Logue, I think that he is actually has to be on some sort of drugs, or he drinks or something. And a couple times he's like dazed and looking down, and I don't know what he was doing. And it looked like he was taking notes, but so a couple times will ask him to pay attention, because he's like looking down at the desk and so forth. And I think the guy should get drug tested, to be honest with you, because he seems so out of it so often. Where 2 of you recused or abstained from that vote, claiming that you wanted to avoid appearance of impropriety, then you would not. Mr. Logue?
He's taking notes. He's listening, Chris. It's okay.
I just like to make sure he's paying attention. I don't know what he's doing up there. But 2 of you abstained or recused from the vote. Neither of you was clear as to why. Mr. Dills, I think the reason for you became clear because you were in a business relationship, but I don't believe you ever talked about that. Mr. Logue never talked about what it was. Now I've heard rumors for a while that the project had been pulled and wasn't happening. On election day, I've sent notes asking about it, never got a response from the transparency team. I saw Mr. Wright on election day and asked him to his car window while I was getting beers, to have beers while giving out election literature, since you guys made this a drinking area up here.
Very intelligent decision.
Glad you're
And Mr.
joining.
Wright told me that in fact it was pulled. So I'd appreciate if you guys would address what your conflicts were, what the current status of the project was, and why, if it did get pulled, why that wasn't shared proactively with us or in response to emails I sent. Second thing is Dora and RJ's.
So the first thing, again, that's the Fernando Cruz project. That was the outdoor amphitheater thing. If you didn't know, that project is currently dead. I don't know what kind of backroom rope-a-dope they might have planned on it, but I think it would be more like a zombie thing. But that project is currently supposed to be dead. I heard rumors of it, then I got confirmation later.
This gets more crazy every minute. Now I'm under the understanding that you've declared the woods a patio with RJ's. It's the most moronic thing I've ever seen. But it doesn't matter. The beer was being sold outside the lines of the patio that I got as a record request. It appears that the Board of Liquor Control was misled as to what was happening when RJ's was actually submitting for an expansion to the Paradise Pavilion that was previously under Jungle Gym's control, that somehow a map got substituted in that implied that there was this whole area. But now if you define that as an area, I don't want to be too confusing, but now with your DORA, if anybody walks with a beer outside of those lines and back in, they're breaking your DORA rules. I think it's time for you guys to reset on this. We look like dumbasses with all the businesses having no DORA stickers where they didn't even want DORAs. A DORA down there, you could have easily done a 90-day festival permit when you had your concert series, and then you could have bid for the alcohol beverage services like a church festival does, and made this so much easier and cleaner and simpler. Done it the right way, but I'm not sure that you guys can step back and admit you made a lot of huge mistakes here. And a lot of times it's a lot harder doing things the crooked backroom way than it is just doing them right. And what do I mean by crooked backroom way? From my read of the resolutions that were passed, you guys are paying RJ's $2,900 a year for 6 events to sell beer. So they get paid $483 an event to sell beer. I think there's other people that would pay you to sell beer. But we know there's personal relationships with some of the trustees and the people down at RJ's. So we've done some sort of cockamamie scheme so that RJ's can be the sole provider of beverages at the concert pavilion. And we just ignore pretty much a lot of the laws, even the DORA rules. And we end up with a dumbass DORA that the merchants down there think makes them want to leave, not stay. Because none of it, the mattress shop, the T-Mobile, the Spectrum, they don't want beer drinking in their stores. The last thing I want to hit is Mr. Logue, your car theft. Mr. Logue?
He's listening.
Does he have a problem with eye contact?
He's taking notes.
So this is the thing, it's like, and why is John Becker covering for that one of the township trustees appears to be on drugs during the meeting and unable to focus? So they should put a camera on Michael Logue just so we can all see that he's coherent during meetings, because I really don't get what goes on with the guy. It's weird.
Okay, so your car theft, when your car theft took place, you probably know I got the body cam video of it. Nothing's big sensational out of it. But why did you then come in here this night and misrepresent what happened? That morning, you knew your wife had left the keys in the car, and some kids took the car or whatever, but you came in here and made it sound in a racial type way that inner city kids somehow had an ability to use tablets and cords to steal cards, never revealing that night in a trustee meeting that the reality is that your wife left the keys in the car. I got news for you. That's why I have such a bizarre feeling about you. Because everybody makes mistakes, right? I've left the garage door open. I'm sure my wife's left the keys in the car. But when it happens, most people can just say, I screwed up and I learned from it. People in my neighborhood are appreciative of the police stopping and reminding them they left the garage door open, right? That's not bad people, but it's a lesson to learn. So instead of telling the lesson, Mr. Logue, of, we all got to be vigilant. My wife accidentally left the keys in the car, which anybody can understand, right? Anybody can understand that. That instead, you have to come in here and make it sound like some inner city evil youth caused this.
Mr. Hicks, it's been 5 minutes. Could you wrap this
So
up?
if I've addressed 3 things.
So just so you know, that was Michael Logue, who's coming back from his drug stupor or whatever the hell's going on, trying to get me cut off because I've hit the time limit. So that's the guy. That's what he's real concerned about at this point in time.
I have to leave, so I know a lot of times you guys don't talk about stuff or respond to stuff till the end, but I'd appreciate on those 3 topics, the status of the case 124Z, the DORA, and can we just hit the reset button and do it right? Do fit 90-day festival permits and get rid of all these dumb stickers? And Mr. Logue, maybe you can comment on your car theft, because I think it all comes back to you guys ran on a platform to be open and transparent, and it just seems like now more than ever there's this sketchy shit and dumb shit happening all the time.
Okay,
thank you
Mr.
guys.
Hicks. Mr. Wright, do you have any, I guess,
Now they do go into some comments. The first one's going to be Corey Wright, but just so we square away on the things that got talked about. One is the Fernando Cruz project that was supposed to be this outdoor kind of amphitheater thing down by Aldi and Sam's, and that's dead at this point. And I only found out about it because I had heard rumors, and I asked Corey Wright on election day because I saw him about it. Second thing is going to be the Dora, and RJ's getting paid to sell beer, and it being all effed up on supposedly the woods is now a patio for RJ's. And then the third thing was a Logue car theft. That one doesn't get addressed again, but Corey's going to address the Cruz case first. And listen what happens. It's like he's afraid that he's actually had any communication with me. I saw him on election day because the polling location I vote at is the same polling location is where he works at, the Union Township Civic Center. And it's like he's afraid now he's going to get in trouble because he had communication with me. But he talks about that then, about there's some discussion about the Dora.
On why Cruz pulled out, or what's going on with the Dora, RJ's?
Well, I can tell you that on the 124Z that Mr. Cruz pulled out. And that is all we know. And that, at the end of the day, the project will reset, and then it'll be advanced back through the zoning process. So
Okay, that's fine.
That's really all I have on that.
So reset and advance back means a backroom deal, probably. And by the way, they're trying, I think a lot of this, why he pulled out, is because it was never legally approved, because you have two trustees that have conflicts of interest with Mr. Cruz. And so they let it be voted on by one, which is not legal. That's why you don't want politicians to be in backroom deals or front room deals or any kind of deals with developers, because then they hamstring themselves in being able to consider and approve those deals. But that's the first thing. Fernando Cruz just pulled out. It's going to be reconfigured or something and come back.
As far as the Dora,
Mr. Wright, that's the same update that you already gave the gentleman that just spoke, correct?
So hold on, Logue. This is, I left out, this is when Michael Logue then interrupts him. This is the little area. I'm going to bump it back here just a few seconds. But this is where Corey talks about this, and then watch Logue's reaction. And I think you're going to hear Logue describe me as special interest. A citizen asking a question is special interest. Here we go.
At the end of the day, the project will reset, and then it'll be advanced back through the zoning process. So
Okay, that's fine.
That's really all I have on that. As far as the Dora,
Mr. Wright, that's the same update that you already gave the gentleman that just spoke, correct? It's the same update?
Yeah, well, the question that was asked was actually what happened.
Okay.
And it's like it's been pulled. And that was literally, I think, all the words that were exchanged.
So transparency's sake.
And then some pleasantries about
providing-
election day and whatnot. I mean, it was a pretty casual conversation.
We are providing adequate response to the special interest on that, correct?
He asked me and I responded in person. So as far as the Dora goes.
So listen to what the clown Michael Logue said. We've provided something about transparent when they were completely not transparent. I put an email asking about this project, never got a response, and about the vote. And only did I find out about it because I had heard rumors. And then I asked Corey face to face. He was in his car. I was bringing beers back. We'll talk about that. And so he was driving down the hill, and I asked him, he stopped and we were chitty chatting. And then I asked him, would the project get pulled? So, Mr. Logue, the idea that this was transparent is completely bullshit and asinine. That's one thing. The second thing, I got to love that then he refers to the citizen as a special interest when Michael Logue has a conflict of interest with the developer. This guy has got something mentally not right in his head. And he's dangerous in government, I think. But Corey's going to talk about the Dora now.
We believe, all the legislation that gets put through here goes through our law director, whether it's for the CIC or whether it's for the township. We've already talked to RJ's and liquor control about the boundaries. So that's really not, it's not as big a deal as I think. It's important, but it's not, typically what they'll do is they'll tell, like the explanation that I've heard is if they get somebody doing that, they'll tell them to move the cart or whatever. And that's typically what happens. But, at the end of the day, we can and will do better. It is our property. There is a license agreement on that puts all the onus on the permit holder to observe by those things. And it makes no difference who the permit holder is. But, at the end of the day, we'll just make sure those rules are clarified.
It's okay. Thank you for this update. All right, let's either you two have anything else on this? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Dills.
Yeah, just the,
Now Joe Dills is going to talk about the Dora stuff and this fucked up liquor thing. And this is going to be great because he's going to say it's a 5 to 10 year vision. I guess that all the retailers get out of Eastgate. We turn that into a drinking place. Maybe we can get some pot shops in there too. Listen to this dumbass shit that's going to come out of his mouth.
I abstained because I said I had a personal relationship with him. But yeah, we partnered on a business together, so that's why I abstained, and I think it was a good abstention. But yeah, I mean, Fernando pulled out because he just became a headache. So it would have been great development, and he was going to just be a tenant. He wasn't going to be a builder, and he doesn't own the land. He's going to be a tenant. Just became a headache, so he pulled out. How cool would it have been to have a nice, brewery mixed with a pizza place, right in the middle of a kind of a mini concert area? Would have been a great area to have. So it pulled out because it became a headache. So.
And how would it be? I apologize. He's talking first about the Fernando Cruz. And what great would it be that we didn't have trustees that were in conflicted business relationships with local developers that have to recuse from votes, making the votes illegal, Joe? How cool would that be? Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe you should not be in political life if you are working with developers, especially at the township level where development and approving agreements is a big part of the role of a trustee. You and Logue ran on the thing about trustee conflict of interest around Miller Place when there really wasn't any. That may or may not have been a good decision, but it wasn't because of trustee conflict of interest. Now you guys have real trustee conflict of interest and lecture to people that I guess is somebody else's fault that it was a headache for Fernando Cruz. Maybe the headache was you guys. Maybe you need to be self-aware that when you get in these development deal you're in business relationships with developers, you're the one that's creating the headache for them. That should never happen. And Fernando Cruz should know better than to get into relationships with politicians this way, where there's shared financial interest. And by the way, Joe, whether he's a tenant, the owner, whatever, it's still a conflict of interest. So you can't, but I know you guys would sit in the back room probably and think about how you can structure something so the unethical nature of it is hidden. Oh, it's not a tenant, it's a this. The point is you cannot have an interest in what's going on with any of the parties that are known to you to be part of the development deal. So I wonder if this will come back without Fernando Cruz, and then they'll slip Fernando Cruz in after the fact and then claim it wasn't a conflict of interest by doing that. That'll be great for the Ethics Commission. So, all right.
That's why. As far as, we're us three, we're not experts at anything necessarily, but we hire good people around us to make good, qualified, expert opinions. And I do trust Mr. Wright wholeheartedly. And
this is going to be the DORA.
He chose the DORA area. Obviously, it's bigger than what is needed right now, but you don't plan just for today. You plan for tomorrow. You plan for a year from now, 5 years from now, and hopefully 10 years from now. So there's always tweaks, and you can always learn from decisions you make. And hindsight's always 20/20, but we won't find that out, I don't think, for a little while. So your opinion is you think the DORA area is goofy. My opinion is I think it's good for future growth and development potentially. And if it's not, it's not. But we live and learn and make decisions and roll with it. So I think Union Township's very active and is doing good things. And so, Milford and City of Milford and Loveland also have DORAs, and some of those businesses may or may not want someone walking around in theirs. They can grab a sticker, throw it on their door, and not have a beer cup in there. It's not like, and when, not now, but Chief Reese, I'll defer to you. And we had the fireworks, and you said not one incident, not one bad thing. And then I would also defer to Mr. Taylor. Again, I'm deferring to my experts. Mr. Taylor, have we had a bad cleanup issue? Has there been cups all over the place where it's, holy smokes, it's, the sky is falling? We haven't. He's saying we haven't. He's saying we haven't. It's okay. But when you paint a picture of look at all these drunks walking around, walking into T-Mobile, it's kind of silly. I don't think that's really happening. And according to my police chief, who's the expert, is telling me, we've never had an issue so far. It's okay. So we make decisions, we roll with it, and plan for not just for today, but for the future as well. So
That was all very well said. Thank you, Mr. Dillis.
yeah, no problem.
Right, so unless there's anything else, we'll move on. Chief Clement.
So I just want to say, he said, my police chief. By the way, and politicians do this, it's our police chief. We're paying for the police chief, Joe. It's not your police chief, okay? This kind of nature, these guys, the bromance, it's backslapping, let's squeeze each other's muscles and go work out at the gym together, that it's your police chief. So let's come back here for a second on just this DORA stuff and what Joe Dill said. So he said 5 to 10 years. Could take 5 to 10 years, and you do this for the future. Here's a clue for the clue bus. You can change the DORA boundaries whenever you want. So why would somebody go draw a DORA? It's kind of like some idiotic Democrat politician view. Hey, we'll just draw a big DORA line somewhere. Why don't we draw it out in a field? And then maybe people will come and build bars and restaurants there. It's not the way it works. Joe Dill's also mentioned the Loveland and Milford DORAs. Apparently, I don't know, something's wrong in the brain on this one, because Loveland and Milford have areas that have restaurants that are actual real walkable areas, not a DORA architected around mattress stores, hearing aid shops, T-Mobile, Spectrum, and a bunch of other strip mall retailers that have absolutely no interest in the DORA. Joe also said that made it implied that I characterized drunk people walking in and out of T-Mobile. He knows better because T-Mobile won't let people in drinking, so that's not possible. Then he's talking about cleanup, and there's no issue with cleanup. I'll give you a reason why there's no issue with cleanup, because it's effing stupid and nobody goes there to drink beer in the first place, so there's nothing to clean up. These guys, this fireworks thing that they refer to, I went there and I observed that other than people in the fenced-in area and right around there at RJ's, nobody was drinking Dora beer. Not coming in and out of La Rosa's. And I went through Jungle Gyms, and there was nobody even at the bar line in the back part of Jungle Gyms getting beer. So the whole Dora thing. But here's the thing. I'm going to put up a few pictures here before I wrap up to just illustrate some of this and some of the comments that were made. Because what I'm going to tell you now, some of the stuff I think is really shocking to me. To me, it's shocking how dumb this is. First off, this is me at voting because just remember, if you're buying a house, that only in Union Township do we have a government that makes the government parking lots of the buildings a drinking area. So you can walk down the hill and get beer and then loiter around in the parking lot with your legal purpose being that you're drinking in the government building parking lot. How embarrassing. The government building has stickers on the doors about it's not a door of participants, so you can't bring beers. It has the door that kids go into to go to the West Claremont school offices has a no drinking sticker on it. I mean, who thinks of these things? Do these guys just not think of them at all? Is Corey Wright not able to think this stuff through or able to challenge these guys on any of this? But this is the drinking, this is me drinking some beers up at the voting. So if you want to buy a house where you can drink while you're voting, this is a good place to do it. Union Township just hit one of the precincts that is around the Civic Center. Second thing, this is Fernando Cruz. Remember, he's not involved with the project, but he's the spokesman that's in the press. And here with an Adam Clements story, who's brother of Austin Clements, the fire chiefs of Union Township, because it's all an inbred little world here. And there's never been any promotion by Adam Clements that the project fell through. He can come talk to me anytime about it, because that's not the way it works. That's not the story that Michael Logue, Joe Dills, and John Becker want on Local 12. So that's not the story we're getting right now. So that's the second part. Now let's get to this DORA thing. So when I mentioned the drawing, so I have it right here. I have a copy of it right here. So first off, there's a statute, 4308.18, that only took effect this year. That basically, it's kind of a dumb statute, but it allows basically drinking in the parking lots of anybody who has a license to sell alcohol. So you don't even need a DORA. So the whole Jungle Gyms area, I think you could go under this statute and just say, hey, if they'd agree, if Jungle Gyms controls the parking lot and Jungle Gyms agrees that people can buy beer and drink out in the parking lot, I think you could just do that because there's some law that basically allows that, 4308.18. But these guys and their cleverness of the Dream Team, instead of just doing what anybody that had a brain would do, which would be for the summer concert series at the pavilion that's behind the Civic Center, get a 90-day festival permit that would cover the summer back there and then allow sales. That's all they had to do. Easy to do. What anybody else would do. Church festivals do it all the time, but they just do it for a weekend, but there's a 90-day option. Clean as hell, okay? When they have the fireworks, they could do that down there. I don't think they would need to because of this law 4308.18. But they could do it down at Jungle Gyms. They have a festival permit, allow simple, but what churches do all the time for their festivals, no big deal. Instead, these guys, the Dream Team, they went through some rigmarole where they defined now the whole area. And if you see this drawing, I'll try to use my mouse over here. This whole area behind RJ's is now defined as a patio. So this is a patio. By the way, somebody must have greased liquor control to slip this through because no regular business could do. The funny thing is government never follows its own laws, okay? And it gets looked the other way. If a regular business did this, what would happen? But this is tied in with the government. So this whole area, this entire area, so from these parking lots, this one is owned by is part of Jungle Gyms. This one back here is owned by the Township, where my mouse is sitting right there. This the woods, okay, all that area is now a patio on the weekends. So you can drink, and you don't need to have DORA cups based on the definition of this with liquor control that I've been given through records request. You can drink, you have to buy the beer there, but you can drink out in that parking lot, without a DORA cup based on this, because this is defined officially as a patio for RJs on temporary weekend expansion, temporary weekend time back there behind it. It's completely idiotic. It completely makes no sense. And who in their right mind would think of woods as part of a patio? I think it also raises issues about the Disabilities Act, which they've tried to avoid. That is, how do people get across this patio now that has been established? So that is the what they've done. So they have this crazy thing where they have this, then they have the DORA, and so because this is defined as a patio, if you look at it up here, I don't know if you see where I put my mouse, but if you look at it up here, where this edge is, it goes right up to Jungle Gym's exit. So technically, if during DORA hours, based on their DORA rules, if you walk out of Jungle Gym's and you're crossing into a RJ's patio, which it's against the DORA to bring a beer from one DORA seller into another DORA seller's area. So that's against the rules. Similarly, if you were up here and you bought a beer from RJ's selling up here at a concert, and then you walk outside this line, you see the border is not even part of the pavilion seating area, is not within the border. But if you walk out that sign, that line, you broke the law, because that's, you walked into it at that time, it would be a DORA area, and then you can't walk back in. These guys haven't thought anything, but they're too prideful and arrogant to just say, we totally effed this thing up. We should have just done what a common sense person would have done, is when we need it for the summer concert series, we get a 90-day festival permit in the summers to use up at the Township Center for events we want to have. And then down at the Jungle Gym's area, you just have a festival permit, would be the easiest, cleanest way to do it, for the fireworks. So on that night, you could have this, but instead we have this confusing mess. And if you go down there, you'll see that all of the businesses, pretty much every business, has a big white sticker saying they don't participate in DORA on their doors, just to make us look incredibly stupid, because none of the businesses basically want to participate in DORA. I think on the side that Burlington Coat Factory is in, the only people that participate is I think you can the pizza place. You can bring beer in if you want, and that's basically it. Maybe the burrito place says you can bring it in, but nobody does it, because you'd have to walk over to Jungle Gym's or La Rosa's to buy a beer and then walk across the Death Crosswalk to get there. And then on the Jungle Gym side, basically nobody does it either. The golf shop does, Crossroads, because they're buds with Michael Logue, I'm sure. I'm sure that goes over good with your church going people. We want to have open drinking during church, and not of the Eucharistic kind. And if you look at then all the shops along the way, I think there might be one, or I can't even remember, like maybe one or two that allow it. I know the golf shop does, and maybe another one, but all the other ones, they don't want it. And this is what happens when idiots get into government and they just decide, oh, we're going to do this because it'll be cool that we have a DORA, and never bothered. These guys that are supposed to be transparent, and they never bothered to consult with anybody down in the actual places to see did they want this. Because I can tell you, had they taken a vote of the merchants down there, the merchants have voted with their stickers. They don't want it, because nobody goes to get their dentures or their hearing aids or their mattress, thinking, oh, honey, we need to get a new mattress. Well, I'm only going to go to a place I can drink while I'm getting a mattress. It's just not the way it works. It's moronic. And here is the biggest bombshell of all this. Michael Logues is buds with Rick Welker, I believe, down at RJ's. And what they've done is they did this setup. Let me put this up here. Okay. Where they put, where RJ's gets paid $2,900 a year to sell beer at 6 township events, beer and wine or whatever they sell. So you see the top part of this A that's highlighted is they pay him $1,400 a year. Okay. And then they pay him $1,500 a year. Okay. So the CIC, they're doing this through the CIC, but RJ's is getting paid $2,900 a year to sell beer. And that cost, that equates to, for 6 events, that's not on this page, I don't think, but 6 events. But the 6 events, that equates to paying RJ's $483 per event to sell beer at the Beer and Wine or whatever the heck they sell up at the Township Center during these concerts, this concert series. How idiotic is that? And how obnoxious is that? Because there's a personal relationship with the trustees that, for example, if they got a festival permit, I think they could have had Mount Carmel Brewing one time, RJ's one time, somebody else sometime, and actually make it interesting. But instead, they have this dumbass thing with that they're paying somebody $483 an event to sell beer versus making money off of that. I'm sure if they bid that out, they would get people that would pay them money for being able to do that, versus that they're paying their buddy Rick Welker and RJ's the equivalent of $483 an event down there. So that's an update. I apologize for being a little disheveled in the way that I went through the stuff, but it's just another example of the way things roll in Union Township now, where things are not thought through, they're half-baked, they're rolled out without thinking about it, and there's an inability to admit mistakes and then correct them. And I'll give you another good example. The meeting last night, I think, was 3.5 hours. Why are the meetings so long? It's like a death march, like a Nazi death march. Their meetings. Why? Because these guys switched from having 2 meetings a month to having 1 meeting a month. And as a result, it's not working. So their meetings become these 3-4 hour things on a regular basis, but they can't admit they made a mistake and switch back to 2 meetings a month because that's the way they are. It's the worst kind of people you want in government is people who cannot admit they made a mistake. They had to get together with David Painter and they could all agree that they've never made a mistake in their lives, like David Painter never made a mistake on the shelter. So that's a rundown on all of this. And Fernando Cruz project, gone for now. The DORA of RJ's screwed up as ever, but they're not going to be willing to admit that they've got it effed up and try to fix it. And then I'll keep harping on it, and that's how that'll go. And then the very last thing, I'll just hit on is the load car theft. That speaks for itself. The guy can't admit he ever made a mistake. So instead of when he came in, his car got stolen because his wife left the keys in, it was unlocked. Never excuses theft. Theft is wrong always. But instead of that, after it happened, when he knew that they had culpability in it by leaving the car unlocked and the keys in it, he instead comes into a trustee meeting and acts like these inner city youth had some sort of wire iPad way to jack a car. When he knew. Why do I know that? Because I got the body cam video, and that morning before the meeting, he knew that his wife had left the keys in the car. But he can't admit he made a mistake. He can't be like a regular person. And I'm telling you, I'm going to close on this last thing. He should get drug tested. There's something not right. And maybe he shouldn't be in politics. And if he's got something wrong, he should go worry about himself. But he's like zoning half the time and like he's on some sort of narcotic or something's going on with him. Thank you for watching.